Good evening, viewers. Even as the debate rages on the Waqf Amendment Bill in Parliament, earlier today, deliberations of the JPC, the accusations from the opposition parties continued unabated. Even as questions were being raised about the support to the bill from alliance partners of the BJP, the matter clearly is of political power versus empowerment. Joining me this evening on Times Now is S. Gurumurthy, editor of Tughlaq, also author, part-time director on the Reserve Bank of India board. Good evening, Mr. Gurumurthy. On a day when this debate is raging on about the Waqf bill, I first want to ask you, are Waqf bill reforms an attempt by the BJP to undermine the religious beliefs of the minority community, especially the Muslims in this case? Because that is the accusation that has been hurled on the BJP today.
See, that accusation is very usual and casual against the BJP. Actually, this reform was attempted by the British Judiciary Privy Council in the year 1913, when 4 out of the 5 judges of the Privy Council called the Waqf as a perpetuity which is pernicious, and struck down the very idea of Waqf, because that is not in tune with the contemporary land and property laws. At that time, the British government did what the Congress government did in 1986 by passing the Women's Bill. The British government, to appease the Muslims, passed the Waqf Validation Act. That is how the politics of Islam started against secular law. Property law is secular law. And so to say that the BJP is passing a law against the Muslims is the current political discourse, and it fits into it.
But let me ask you, the Kerala High Court has given a judgment saying that the Waqf board is not a representation of a community. It does not take care of any religious issues. But when the bill that comes in actually impacts properties of Muslims, doesn't this bill then have religious overtones, which is something that political parties in the opposition seem to be using as an argument to block this reform, which is called a property reform?
First, we have to disconnect the idea of Waqf from Muslims. Turkey, Libya, Egypt, Sudan, Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, Tunisia, Iraq have no Waqf law. They do not recognize Waqf. They are probably full Muslim countries, fully Islamic countries. So to say that Waqf is Islamic is wrong. Waqf is basically Wahhabi and Devbandi Islamic school of thought. And they have their origin in Ibn Taymiyyah's philosophy. And Ibn Taymiyyah revolted against Prophet Muhammad. So, even theologically, it is not an Islamic law, it is a law propounded by a school of thought which did not agree with Prophet Muhammad. So to say that it is Islamic is wrong. It is a Muslim political issue which cropped up in 1913 because of the colonial attitude to a secular judgment by the Privy Council.
So let me also ask you, there is a huge difference that is going to take place when Waqf properties will remain Waqf properties, except those which are either in dispute or those belonging to the government where there are disputes. Now, does this really change the manner in which Waqf properties would be looked at, and was this done by excluding the government properties and not making it applicable to other properties, as Vishnu Shankar Jain says that it doesn't look at ASI protected monuments? Is this because of pressure of alliance partners like the TDP, like the JDU, that this full reform hasn't taken place?
You see, basically, once it is considered it is reform, what is the extent of reform can be debated. If it is questioned that it is not a reform at all, that it is an anti-Muslim measure, then the idea of reform itself gets undermined. I'll just give some figures. There are 8.72 lakh Waqf properties with of 9.4 lakh acre extent, out of which 4.6 lakh acres is not having particulars at all. No information available. This is how the Waqf board, Waqf law has mismanaged the properties. And the amount of properties under litigation internally is 8,000 acres and 5,000 acres internally. Alienated properties is 2,000 acres. Encroached property is 57,000 acres. This is the performance of the Waqf law and the Waqf council and the Waqf boards. This data itself shows that reform is needed.
So, if reform is needed, do you think any authority, because the new bill proposes that somebody has to be a follower of Islam for 5 years, who's going to be the judge of that? That is a major objection that has cropped up. Will it be the DM? Will it be the BJP? Will it be the government that will decide who's a true Muslim?
You see, once you state a particular fact in law, whether that fact is correct or not will be decided by the judiciary. In fact, so far, till now, no matter pertaining to Waqf could be a matter of civil litigation. Civil litigation has been barred. Now, this law provides for writ judicial review. So whether somebody is a Muslim or not will be decided by courts.
So Dr. Gurumurthy, the question also arises on the basic premise, where the question really comes up on whether the use of the land has been for Waqf, whether it is a charity, whether it is being used for empowerment or betterment of poor people, of women, of widows, of divorcees. All of these questions, who's going to judge all of this? Because ultimately there will be authorities that will be present and governed by the state that will decide this before the matter goes to court. Will this be subject to a lot of bureaucratic and political interference?
You see, actually now you have got to go back to 2 attempts to reform the Waqf law. One was by a committee for the safeguarding the minority interest, Muslim minority interest, the Sachar committee. The Sachar committee suggested substantial modifications and reform of the Waqf law, and they wanted inclusion of non-Muslim expertise, and they wanted a secretary level officer to be the principal person in the Waqf board as well as the Waqf council, and they wanted financial audit. All this means as far back as 20 years, Sachar committee, a committee appointed to protect Islamic and Muslim minority interests, itself suggested this reform. So when you bring in the recommendations of Sachar committee into the present Waqf bill, it is seen as the government interference. Second, even the UPA government in 2013 passed a law for the efficient administration of Waqf, which law failed. So there is a history, even in the UPA period, of specifically attempting government based reform, government centered reform of the Waqf law. What is the BJP proposing something very new? No.
But Mr. Gurumurthy, objections have also come in from people like Asaduddin Owaisi, who say that appointment of non-Muslims in the Waqf board actually takes away their right, which is available to every single religion, because this is interference in their religious activity. It's also a premise that has been moved by the Tamil Nadu Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, who says this is interference into the religious administration of Muslims. How do you respond to these questions?
I said Sachar committee itself, which was appointed to safeguard minority interests, in which Waqf properties are an important foundation, itself suggested that there should be non-Muslim expertise. Why does Owaisi ignore it? And Mr. Owaisi must first answer why about dozen Muslim countries do not recognize Waqf at all. And what is the great importance of Waqf in India, which was started by Muhammad Ghori in the year 1175 AD. Before that, Waqf was not known in India.
When you bring up the name of Ghori, we'll go back into the debate of Ghori, Muhammad Ghori, Aurangzeb, Babur, and that becomes another divisive agenda which is defining politics these days. Dr. Gurumurthy, then the fight is between Sambhaji, Shivaji and Aurangzeb that will come in as well. Does that really help resolving any issues in the society?
It will help, provided there is introspection. The kind of name that you mentioned only resulted in the partition of India. And the partition of India mentality is still pervading politics through vote bank cultivation. Vote bank cultivation is the basis on which the pre-partition mentality, which is rooted in the names that you suggested, is continuing. So it requires introspection. Hindus and Muslims in this country will have to live together, means the pre-partition mentality has to be obliterated. If this has to be obliterated, then certain personalities should not be celebrated, because it is the celebration of those personalities that led to the partition of India. This requires very, very open and, I would say, non-emotional discourse.
So then, Gurumurthy ji, the question is that Congress MP Imran Masood also says that the Waqf Bill amendment is a precursor to the complete scrapping of the Places of Worship Act. Do you see that happening sooner than later?
You see, the Places of Worship Act itself was a reaction to the demolition of the Babri Masjid. That was not rooted in any logic, because one masjid was demolished and that was a disputed property anyway from 1934, and over which there was a huge political movement which was resisted unnecessarily. If it had not been resisted, demolition would not have taken place. So the demolition, which was an extreme event, produced the Places of Worship Act, which was an extreme reaction. Places of Worship Act will need to be reconsidered. There has to be a reasonable classification of properties or masjids which cannot be claimed. But if there are masjids which are built seen on the temple, like the Kashi Vishwanath temple, to say that the Places of Worship Act must prohibit that claim, that is very impractical. You cannot use the state power to obliterate a fact.
Fair point, but let me also ask you. DMK leader A. Raja has urged DMK members to remove all religious symbols like a tilak or holy ash, on their own bodies when they wear, the DMK or come for DMK meetings when they represent the party. Do you think this is once again a provocative statement by him?
No, it is not provocation. It is in their DNA. Actually, Tamil Nadu has rejected this kind of approach to the DMK ideology once N.G. Ramachandran broke away from the DMK and constituted the ADMK. Tamil Nadu society has moved far, far away from the negative perception that the DMK created about Hindu symbols. And if the DMK wants to go back to that position, it will be moving away from the Tamil Nadu society itself. But it is there. They have to justify this before the people of Tamil Nadu.
But they are winning elections. They have repeated their government. So clearly, people are voting for them.
You see, if you say then if DMK members cannot do that, DMK members and leaders' families should not go to temples. They are openly worshipping God. They are conducting homums and other rituals, and that is happening explicitly before television. What is the DMK going to do about it?
Well, clearly, hypocrisy, thy name is politics, and politics, thy name is hypocrisy. That's the way the saying goes. Do you think this bill, the Waqf Amendment Bill, will be passed in Parliament? Do you expect shenanigans? Do you expect disruption in the end? Or do you see it as a smooth sailing bill that will just go despite the opposition from the opposition benches?
You see, actually, if this bill is not passed, it will be a very sad day for secularism in India and secularizing the Muslim mind. The Muslim mind needs to be secularized. It has become increasingly communal, aggressively communal, post-partition instead of becoming moderating and secularizing. It will be a very sad day if this bill fails. My own views, it will not, because the BJP is a very competent party and its floor management would have done all calculations like they did in the case of the Article 370 elimination. And so I think there is every reasonable expectation that this bill will be passed. Anyhow, if the opposition walks out, then they have conceded. Let us see how it happens. It is going to be another hour or so. Let us see.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gurumurthy, for joining me here on this special edition of the News Hour. With that, we'll slip into a short break, but more news and debates from Parliament continue to come up on the show.